As Treasury Secretary, you were the lead, I should say, in setting up the sanctions on Iran with our allies and partners on the nuclear deal. Now, leaving aside the details of the nuclear deal, do you think if that deal is not approved, that the sanctions regime in any way, shape, or form could stay in place?
Yeah, Walter, several comments on that deal, and I will say at first, I'm not an expert on the Middle East, and I haven't studied the specifics of the deal. But I will make several comments, maybe three comments. The first one is that I think it's somewhere between naive and unrealistic to assume that after the United States of America has negotiated something like this with the five other, parties, and with the whole world community watching, that we could back away from that, and that the others would go with us, or even that our allies would go with us. That's the first thing. The second thing, I can just tell you how hard it is to craft sanctions, and that and unilateral sanctions and don't work, okay? They really have to be multilateral. And as someone who spent a lot of time dealing with the Europeans and Japanese and in looking at the financial system, I can just tell you how hard it was. And even when we found abuses and went to the governments to get their governments to enforce it. So it's a difficult thing. So I don't believe, I think it's totally unrealistic to believe that if we backed out of this deal, that the multilateral sanctions would stay in place. And I'm just trying to envision us sanctioning European banks or enforcing them, or Japanese banks or big Chinese banks. So again, the third thing I would say after, and again, not as an expert on this with that qualification, I had a seat in Washington when we dealt with a big, intractable, messy problem where there weren't any neat, beautiful, elegant solutions. So you were deciding between doing something that was objectionable or doing nothing at all, which could even be more objectionable. So I don't particularly like it when people criticize something that's big and important that's been done if they don't have a better idea. So what I'd always say, so I would always say, okay, you don't like option A, what's your option B? Okay, and if there's not an option B, and we went through that. I remember with when the money markets were imploding, and we were going to use the Exchange Stabilization Fund to guarantee them, and so I heard people say, well, how do you guarantee $3.5 trillion of money markets when you've only got the Exchange Stabilization Fund is only $45 billion, or what kinds of aberrations or dislocations is that going to cause? And I said, well, have you got a better idea? Do you want the money markets? And if you don't have a better idea, fine, we'll do it. And so again, so I'm not an expert on that, but I do know something about working on these sanctions and how difficult it is to put them in place.